Hey there, coaches. I'm Rich Prado, owner of Play in School and host of Travel Ball Talk, where I talk to travel ball coaches from the best organizations about the current and future state of travel baseball. I'll spare you my impression of John Denver, but know that Rocky Mountain High was playing in my mind the entire time I was speaking with today's guest, Mike Kenny, from the Colorado Yard Dawgs. Mike brings with him a tremendous perspective of a high-level college swimmer, as well as the parent of 5 highly competitive children. I hope you enjoy this episode of Travel Ball Talk. But before we get to today's show, coaches, what if there was a drop-dead simple platform that put all of your players' up-to-date data and up-to-date videos at your fingertips? What if that platform cost your families less than a trip to Starbucks each month? Good news. I've just built it. Our brand new player profile platform might be the cleanest and simplest way to have your players maintain their data and film in one place. For full details and to set up a demo, visit playinschool.com/platform. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. I'm your host, owner, founder of Play in School. And I'm jazzed up today. I'm pumped. I'm excited. Literally been talking with my new BFF for about 5 minutes, and the energy's great because this conversation is being done from the foot of the Colorado, from the Rockies. Heading out to Parker, Colorado, with Mike Kenny of the Colorado Yard Dawgs. Mike, how you doing, man?
I'm great. I appreciate you reaching out to me. And look, we chatted for probably 10 minutes, and not much of it was about baseball. So you and I have a lot in common, and I'm looking forward to our talk here.
You know, that's interesting. You mentioned that. Obviously, you love baseball. I love baseball, but I'm not so in love with it that it's a one-dimensional thing. I don't. Some folks take pride in eating, sleeping, dreaming baseball all day long, and I've got other passions and other pursuits beyond the sport of baseball. It sounds like you do too, and I find that to be way more interesting than a one-dimensional human being who only focuses on one topic. Now, baseball's a good topic.
Yeah. I mean, that's life, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to do in our young men, and have them understand who they are and what they are as a bunch of well-rounded individuals. And baseball's a big piece of what they do, but it's not who they are.
That's a great quote. We've heard that quote before. It's what they do. It's not who they are. Hey, before we get too far, speaking of who y'all are, I'm trying to do a better job of directing traffic right up front. While most listeners are hopefully still tuned in. If you go to Twitter, you can look these guys up at CO Yard Dawgs, and that's COYARDDAWGS. That's Colorado Yard Dawgs. If you put it into the Twitter search, you'll find them. They're based just south of Denver, Colorado. And again, I get so jazzed up because three of my summers when I was out of college were spent running whitewater outside of Vail. We're really all over the state, but I was kind of hanging out outside of Vail, between Vail and Steamboat, up on the Colorado, and it just brings back so many kind of just great memories. So hopefully we can talk a little bit about Colorado. But I'm gonna let Mike kind of give his background to us, and then introduce the Colorado Yard Dawgs to us. So, Mike, why don't you? I'll shut up for a second, and I'll let you kind of give your background and intro of the organization.
Appreciate it. Look, I'm what am I? I'm a former college athlete myself. My wife, also a former college athlete. We've raised 5 kids, 4 of which have gone off to play college sports at different sports and in different levels. And I've got one I've got one left. He's a sophomore in high school. He's a yard dog, and so we're ushering him through this process. And I'm a guy that started coaching, at 18 years old, and I've been coaching various sports nonstop ever since. Not as a profession, but as something I just love to do. I remember, my most competitive years in athletic background was in swimming, and I was a college swimmer at Ohio State. And when I was in law school, I started a club that was a nonprofit club, and it grew to like 100 families. And, I remember sitting in torts class my first year of law school and penciling out a pro forma on a yellow piece of paper when I should have been paying attention to the lecture. But, honestly thinking, could I drop out of law school and run a swim club the rest of my life? And, at the time it was a serious consideration. Fortunately, I stuck with my education, and I've been fortunate to have been exposed to various sports, including at the highest professional level, and have kind of used that to, help guide others. And so I guess you could call me the general manager of this little nonprofit club in Colorado, but I still am coaching, and we've got a bunch of great families and great kids. And we're right in the middle. Me personally, I'm right in the middle of various landscapes, from the college side down through the high school side, a little bit still with the youth side. And so I've got a lot of opinions on this stuff. I appreciate you having me on.
One thing that jumps out is how the Twitter gurus bash on dad coaches. And I'm sitting here, oh boy. Yeah. Not that many of those Twitter gurus are listening to this podcast, but it is I get it in the fact where there's this one little piece where when it's a jerk dad whose maybe kid isn't starting shortstop and he runs off and forms his own thing. So if that's what they want to, if they want to bash on that guy, cool. But to make a blanket statement that dad shouldn't coach is just a terrible idea. I mean, my dad didn't.
Like anything else that. Yeah, I was going to say that example you used of the guy who starts his own team so his son can play shortstop. I'm sure that exists in limited space.
Very limited.
My experience is quite different, and that moms and dads, right, who roll up their sleeves at the youth level and help, introduce the game to these kids need to be applauded. And my opinion is there's really no such phenomenon as daddy ball. It's usually thrown out by disgruntled parents with no perspective.
Yes. My dad coached me, worked out all right. You're coaching your sons, despite not being a professional baseball player. It's pretty amazing. I kind of wanted to go down a little thread here to kind of get your thoughts. You were a high level swimmer. First of all, what did you swim? What events?
Well, the decathlon, right? The 400 IM was my event. 400 IM, 200 IM, 200 fly, 200 back. These are the events that nobody else liked. There were fewer participants, so better chance of success.
Yeah, and you probably bumped your head on the wall a couple times early in your swimming career, which gave you, which sort of kept you from making wise decisions like swimming something like the 50 free, much shorter.
Yeah. I'm the baseball equivalent of a utility player. I mean, the reality is I was pretty good at all four strokes, but I wasn't the best, And so, if you can put that all together with some endurance, you've got yourself. The guy who can do the IM. The level of pain. Actually, this kind of leads to what was going to be my original question. Is something about like. What lessons did you bring over from the swimming world that you tried to impart on
on these high school baseball players right now that you're surrounded with?
There's one lesson that comes to the front of the line. I've talked to my players about it and their parents, and it sounds kind of cliche, but it's real simple. It goes like this: make sure you want to be a college athlete, because I don't know if people truly understand what that means. And whether you're, my oldest son that just finished up a career at the Division III level, what I can tell you is those guys work every bit as hard as the guys at the Division I level. And being a college athlete is awesome, and it's special, and it's something to be proud of. But your chips have to be all in. And I think, I'm not sure a lot of teenagers really understand what that means.
I love it. First of all, you're 100% right. Here's the challenge. How do you recommend a kid? Because in my estimation, it's one of the only places where you can desire something and have no way of getting actual experience in that thing before you go do the thing, right? Like, I could say, hey, I want to go buy this fancy sports car. Well, I can go get experience in that. I can go rent it or borrow it, whatever. There's no way to get experience of being a college athlete until you're a college athlete, which maybe opens up the discussion about, the importance of, travel ball and the importance of the people you surround yourself with and how they're going to challenge you, because college athletics is definitely super challenging. That I think maybe fast forwards us a little bit to a topic that we were going to cover anyway, which is you guys are in Colorado and there's not a lot of travel baseball events going on in Colorado. So, how do you guys kind of manage that?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think first there's a lot of baseball here, and the kind of high school, I will say, showcase level travel baseball, it is growing here. What we don't have are the facilities like Phoenix, Scottsdale, or those in Florida, which the tournaments we go to, most of the time we're playing at these big league, spring training sites. And we do have great facilities here, but they're not up to the caliber of those. And so as a result, the events really aren't here either. And, so what we do is hit the road. And I think our guys have benefited from, traveling all over this country, in these massive tournaments, to have success and realize, I can play this game. And sometimes to not have success and realize, like, I'm not who, my mommy and daddy think I am. I think there's the value in, look, we are kind of this college prep team. We're an organization that's really small. We are a nonprofit. There are a lot of for-profit groups out there who do a great job, right? But I'm not sure that, everyone in those larger organizations are getting that message, right? It's, we're small, so we can focus on just our guys and making sure they've got a realistic understanding of who they are as a player.
And okay, so you mentioned you're small. Tell me how many teams you have at each age group.
Well, we've got 3 high school clubs, 2 at the sophomore level, 1 at the freshman level, and we've got a youth team. This thing was started in 2009 by a guy named Scott Boyd, who kind of handed the keys over to me and a few others who have continued to run it. We're proud of kind of being lean and mean, and look, I get questions all the time from college coaches who are just learning about us, and they're like, who are you guys? Mm-hmm. But we've built a pretty good name for ourselves as a club over the last few years. when I say we're nonprofit, we're nonprofit. We develop a budget up front. All the money goes in, and it's kind of split evenly. And guys like me pay the same as anybody else. And so, we're able to keep fees down and reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean our families aren't spending lots of money on this thing, right? But they're able to allocate resources to, private training and travel and, things like that, right? So the bulk of their fees are not coming to us. The bulk of the money they're spending on the sport are not coming our way.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I try to tell people that travel baseball gets a bad rap for being expensive, but the reality is it's not the baseball that's expensive; it's the travel that's the expensive part. So, you got to be smart about that. We've had some guys out of the Midwest on the show. Most notably Nelson Gord, who's the founder of the Illinois Indians, and we had R.J. Fergus from the Hitters up there in the same ballpark up there. Those guys, it was almost like part of their culture that they would throw their guys in a van, like team vans, to hit the road. Mostly, from what I can gather from these guys, mom and dad, they stay at home. And it's kind of a real blue collar approach to it. And so I'm wondering, you guys hit the road, and there's some pretty long road trips. There's some flights or some extremely long drives. Are mom and dad joining you guys, or are you guys traveling with the kids on their own?
I mean, yes and no. We mix it up. Basically, it's a practical approach for us. Not every parent can travel to every event, so they kind of get together and take turns.
Uh-huh.
We also have a great set of parents who really love to travel, and it kind of adds to who we are in terms of having a fun social environment. Look, I think that's important.
100%.
So what we don't have is, this, as I said, practical approach. We don't have a company credit card. So our guys can't show up at the airport and put down the Dawgs credit card to rent vans.
Right.
So everything we've got to do is got to be carefully planned financially. And whether it's, traveling, with just the kids as a team or saying to the team or saying to the families, look, here's the team hotel. Here's the flight most of us are going to be on. If you need help with little Johnny, I call him latchkey kid. No one knows what a latchkey kid is.
Not anymore. Yeah, that's an old phrase.
Yeah. So I'll throw it out and say, how many latchkey kids do we have? And we just get together and figure it out. And you know what? It just works for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good approach. I'm looking at your schedule for this coming up summer, and I see looks like you're taking a couple guys down, or a couple teams down to Florida. I know you have a background in Florida personally. I think you used to live there. And so first of all, if no one's been to Colorado during the summertime, you're missing out. It's by far probably the best place in the whole country to spend the summer, up in the mountains. But I bet your kids get a kick out of going to the beach too, don't they?
100%, and that is kind of our family trip. Look, Florida in the summer is not for everybody. Me personally, I like the humidity, and there's a great event in and around Fort Myers that we put in Sharpie on our calendar. We've done it for the last 4 years, and a big reason is it's affordable. Rates are down.
Yeah,
our families can rent boats, stay at the beach after the tournament. And it's also a great event that's held in the Southeast. So we feel like we've gotten better by playing it. But we're going to be in Florida. We're going to be in Atlanta, and then super excited to add the Cincy Flames event to our schedule this year at the end of the summer to show our guys that region in the country. Like if you took a 100-mile radius from Cincinnati and just drew a circle, the number of schools that are in that area, it's crazy. So that's our travel focus.
We need to get Gino Grosso from Pathway. If you don't know Gino's the guy who is putting together all all these awesome events for Hathaway Baseball, which is sort of the older arm of Triple Crown Baseball. They're based out in Fort Collins. I've been to the headquarters. Such a cool little town out there, Fort Collins. And Gino's putting together these amazing events all over the country. We just need Gino. We need to convince Gino to host a world-class event in Colorado where the top teams from across the country can take their families to experience the Rocky Mountains during the summertime. I
know Gino. He does a fantastic job, and Pathway is on its way up. There's a great facility down in Albuquerque.
Yep.
And they've got a good presence in Utah and I believe Southern California, as does Five Tool. Those guys do a fantastic job. I think from our standpoint, doing our schedule this year, and I finally wrapped my brain around it and said to my family, "Look, we're going to be East Coast," and there were two driving factors. Number one, it's COVID related. The Colorado High School Athletic Association pushed our season back, and the state championship weekend is the end of June. We're missing out as a club on some really good travel events, but we do that. We do that willingly because we support our guys. We support high school baseball, but the other thing is we got burned on some events last year in Phoenix and Albuquerque that we were set to go to. They got canceled because of COVID.
Yeah. And
I just wasn't willing to take that risk again. And so, we're excited about our schedule, and we know those events are going to go off. And, next year might look different for us in terms of having more of a West Coast presence.
Yeah, there's definitely plenty of really good events out on the West Coast, but I think the they're heavily weighted to the East Coast, just obviously because of population. So that sort of makes plenty of sense. We just to kind of go back, we've had to revisit. I'm trying to go from memory to revisit past episodes of this podcast. I know some guys that are your friends have been on this. Keith Wall from is it Valor Academy? Valor Christian. Valor Christian. And Keith also runs Complete Game Ministries. He was on the podcast. This is if you're a baseball guy in Colorado, Keith. Great dude.
I know Keith well. He's a good friend and does a fantastic job in developing the whole person.
And we've had Ryan Serena from Rogue Baseball, which is kind of, I think, in your vicinity down there in the south of Denver
100%.
area.
Those guys are fantastic. Great baseball family. They run Rogue out of a pretty large training facility that my son works out at. All my boys have. It's called Push Performance. I think, not to get down a separate rabbit hole, but
that's all right.
The specialized training that just the development in terms of the strength and conditioning that I've seen, even in 5 years, has really, I think, accelerated what's going on here in Colorado. And the Rogue guys really do a great job of integrating that aspect into the baseball development. And they're like us; they're a small club.
Yeah, exactly. They're just a handful of teams. And actually, Ryan joined me on the podcast, but his brother is, he's into it, and that's Jordan Serena. And he is he's all over the Twitter universe, doing a good job, just putting out good content. Let's see, we've had a couple other Colorado guys out there, and the reason I mention this is I think with just right there in the Denver area, I think you can get a handful of clubs and then invite these other organizations from East Coast and West Coast to join you. We had Scott Horman, he's with USA Prime. We also had Byron Embry from he's with the Slammers out of their northern facility, whatever that means. I don't know where that is.
That's like Broomfield area.
I think
so north of Denver.
I think so. So
a bunch of good teams play out of there. Yeah,
we've had a bunch of Colorado organizations represented here on the podcast, and so tell Gino I'm gonna help him set up this big national event. We just got to find the right facility to do it. Maybe we can find some fields up in Vail. That'd be my my one request.
If those existed, Vail would be a great look. You know, they say come here for the winter but stay for the summer. I mean, Colorado in the summer is special. And sometimes I wonder, like, you know, we're playing, out in some remote corner of the southeastern United States in the summer where the humidity is 150%.
You don't think Atlanta's it's gross. Atlanta in the summer is gross. Like, I don't care who hears. I was there 2 weeks ago. It was nice. I like Atlanta. It's gross during the summertime. You can't even step outside without, requiring a T-shirt change 4 minutes later. It's incredible. If any of these people went to up in the mountains during July and August, they would never even consider playing baseball in Atlanta during the summer again. So speaking this is we're talking about the weather. There is apparently a global warming phenomenon happening out in Colorado. Now, I say that tongue in cheek because I know you told me before we hit record there's snow on the ground. But when I'm talking about the global warming phenomenon, we're not talking about the temperatures. We're talking about the miles per hour seems to be on the increase of the Colorado pitchers. What's going on out there? They must be getting coached up pretty good.
Yeah. I think it's a reflection of the baseball infrastructure here, and in addition to that, the demographics. Look, Colorado is one of the states people are moving to, and so over the last decade, myself included, we came here from Florida in 2012. There's been population growth. The infrastructure around the facilities is quite good, and there's just the baseball knowledge base is exceptionally strong. I think the other thing is this: it's still a multi-sport climate, and you could theorize that the arms, as they get to the recruitable age, have a little less mileage on them.
Interesting.
I've seen, I'm in my ninth straight year watching, Colorado high school varsity baseball, and coming from Florida, what I would say is, look, at its best, we're every bit as good as these other states. And we got a bunch of guys you've never heard of that if they lived in my own town of Tampa, Florida, would already have commitments by now. That's a fact. So it's just takes a little bit longer for these guys to be known. But yeah, this year we're blessed across our highest level of high school baseball, 5A, with a tremendous amount of power, projectable arms. But it's not just this year. You go back a few years. I mean, there's a guy in the Mets rotation, David Peterson, that's from Regis, 6'5", 6'6", lefty. Just a lot of names the last few years that ended up going on to, big time college careers and are now in the professional ranks.
There was an article you sent me, and I saw it come across Twitter as well, from 2 days ago. Headline reads, "Bringing the Heat. Colorado's 2021 high school baseball season headlined by an unprecedented number of pitchers throwing 90+. With, looks like Regis Jesuits' Alec Willis clocked as high as 97 miles per hour. The article goes on to talk about how right there in the metro area you got 20+ guys who are in the 90s or better. I mean, I live in Richmond, Virginia. This is a baseball town. I don't know if there's 20+ guys in high school baseball who are 90+ right now. There might be. There might be.
Yeah, I mean,
but 20 is pretty good. That's
at our sophomore yard dog level between two clubs, we got 6 who are, I'd say, 89 to 92, right? And then what that article points out is there's some upperclassmen, some primarily in this class of 2021. I mean, some really the magic word, projectable guys. You go to a Regis Jesuit game, and we got snowed out of a treat, which would have been Alec Willis against Cale Lansville. Cale's a guy that I've known since he was 10 years old, who a lot of people have known about the last few years. Committed to LSU, pitched I think against Cuba in a gold medal game for one of the USA national teams. Like he has a pedigree. Great kid, great family, great makeup, and an outstanding pitcher. It would have been him and Willis on Monday. Hopefully we'll get that matchup sometime in the next few weeks. But there's I'm not so sure we're a secret anymore. Word is out. There's a lot of guys.
The unfortunate part is there's a lack of college baseball opportunity, which means you've got to export. You got to export players. Are you finding with the Yard Dogs that you're sending players beyond state lines to play, or what have they been doing the last few years?
Look, everybody's journey is unique, okay? And they need to go to the situation that's right for them. And this is just my own perspective as a dad that has so far ushered 4 kids through the recruiting process with one more to go. And my 4th son, who played for some great coaches at Flammers, ended up at Northern Colorado, and that was right for him. My other kids all went out of state. My most heavily recruited athlete is my 3rd child, who was a competitive diver and ended up at Tulane. Great school academically for what she wanted to pursue. And so, look, I don't care where the kids go. I really don't. You know what I want as a dad and as a guy that leads a club? I want them to be happy. I want them to, when they finish up and they look back, I want them to say that was the right fit. What I don't want to see is a kid get into the endless transfer situation, which unfortunately is a real phenomenon, and it's impacted Colorado baseball players over the last 5 or 6 years. So
yeah, this is a kind of a multi-pronged topic, because on the one hand we're talking about right fit. Right fit means right fit academically, athletically, socially. Hopefully a place you can compete to earn a chance to play. Maybe freshman year, maybe sophomore year, but play. If you're not playing,
right,
that kind of stinks. The other kind of prong of this is, this sort of leads me into the early recruiting thing, because it's almost like saying, yeah, I'm going to marry that girl, but we've been on 3 dates and I'm ready to marry her, but we're not going to get married for 4 years. It's like, right, nobody would ever say that or do that, except it happens routinely in the recruiting world. It's like coach saw the kid a couple times. He's obviously talented, right? Guy goes out with a girl a couple times. She's obviously talented. She's really pretty, cool. And then just throw out a marriage proposal or an offer for a kid who's not going to show up on campus for 3 or 4 years. It's a tough situation, and sometimes poor decisions happen when you don't have enough information and enough research. And so I'm not blaming coaches, I'm not blaming kids, I'm blaming sort of both sides of the coin. What are you thinking?
I don't know anyone who says this system is awesome. So I think we're all on the same page. The issue is, what do we do about it? And look, I'm not
everybody but the NCAA. Everybody's on the same page but the NCAA.
Yeah, this is a deep rabbit hole for me. I've got my frustrations. As a father of student athletes, as an attorney, as somebody who runs a business and has to operate in the real world and then see what happens at that level, it's really frustrating to me. Look, I have a simple fix. I've been banging this drum for a long time as it pertains to baseball and these, verbal commits, whatever, and that is make the damn thing a binding contract. 2 ways. You want to stop early recruiting?
Yeah.
You make it a binding contract. Go sign a 3rd grader. I really don't care. Right?
We are on the same page. Same page.
Yeah, but it's too practical. It's kind of like sometimes I have to deal with our government, and sometimes it just makes too much sense for these behemoth organizations to think this way. And so what we're left with is this. And the other thing is, the economics of a baseball scholarship are terrible. And so, the academic piece is actually a really big deal, and that's how a lot of schools are able to get to where they need to get to. So, now into another topic, as a parent, if you're not spending, equivalent money on SAT, ACT prep or some kind of academic tutoring, what are you doing? All right. If your son wants to play college baseball.
Correct.
Because that's where the money is.
Correct. I'll tell you what, I would, my advice to parents is spend as much money as you can afford on SAT prep. And that sounds crazy. If a parent starts thinking about, well, the thing costs $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000, I'm like, do it. Because when your SAT goes up 50 points or 100 points, that's going to mean maybe $5,000, maybe $10,000 off tuition each year. You could make $1,000 investment that comes back to you $5,000 or $10,000 times 4. I mean, hey, I've made the same joke before. Bitcoin's not returning that kind of that kind of investment right now. Neither is Dogecoin. Not a lot of places you can you can get a 20x return. Oh, by the way, over the course of a couple years, the SAT prep is a difference maker. Absolute difference maker.
The second piece to that is know who your school probably has a person, your kid's high school, who gets paid to handle all this stuff.
Yes.
Right? They're called counselors.
Yes.
And so you need to know what the FAFSA is, and you need to know if little Johnny wants to be, a big-time baseball player at XYZ State U, what their grants and scholarships, aside from, the routine stuff, because they all have these other little scholarships and grants that are available. You just got to apply, stack it up.
Listen, I don't do this a whole lot, but I'm going to point people, if they're still listening, I'll point people to my resource page on my website, playinschool.com/resources. And on there is, I always recommend find the best SAT tutor in your town. But if you don't know one, I've got an online resource that is a company that was invested in by Mark Cuban. It was a Shark Tank company. That's on there. The other thing on there is a book called Debt Free Degree. And I think every parent of the younger the better, should be reading that, because to put a kid $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 in debt to start his adult life is criminal. It's criminal, and there are strategies to get through this thing, to go play baseball, for 4 years at a nice school and get a great degree, without going into 6 figures in debt. So I'll point people, playinschool.com/resources. Find the book, find that SAT prep company. I'm not affiliated with either one of them. I just recommend them. But it's a major topic, and I just feel silly. I ask people kind of tongue in cheek. I said, would you pay $1,000 for your kid to play one baseball game right now? And they look at me like, No way. That's crazy. That sounds insane. Well, when you send your kid and they're paying near full price to a school that's $45 or $55 or $65,000 a year, depending on if it's D3 with a 40-game season or D1 with a 56-game season, guess what you're doing? You're paying $1,000 per game for your kid to put the jersey on. And when you break it down in that perspective, it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy. Anyway, I don't know how we got off on that. Somehow we were talking about early recruiting. We're so simpatico. We got the same sort of thoughts and feelings. I think at some point to kind of come back to that, the college coaches, they're going to look around and realize that they make better choices the longer they wait. And what we're heading into right now with coming off the back end of COVID, the transfer portal is basically going to be the wild, wild west right now. If you're a coach at a mid-major or not even at a mid-major, if you're a coach anywhere and you're spinning your tires trying to sign sophomores in high school when there are sophomores in college or sophomores coming out of junior colleges with a proven track record, these are full-grown men that can either hit or pitch, proven at a college level. Why would you fool around with the high school sophomore? Why are you signing that kid? Why not when you could be signing a kid basically in free agency coming out of the portal? We're going to see. I think we're going to see some craziness this summer in the transfer portal. So you have two kids who just experienced COVID coming off the back end, a high school and a college player. Talk to me about their experience.
Yeah, I mean, COVID, wrecked our baseball world pretty hard last spring. So my fourth son, Craig, is a senior at Regis Jesuit, coming off a state title. He was the catcher there, defending state champs. Absolutely loaded team featuring like 8 Division I commits and 14 guys going off to play college baseball. He lost that season. Committed to Northern Colorado, really good fit for him. And as a side note, he's really happy there, but he's a redshirt. He's dealing with something that he did not expect. Certainly wasn't part of the plan, but COVID changed some things at that program, and it's going to continue to change some things there. So he had to learn, to fight through that piece. My oldest son, Patrick, finishing up, this kid dominated the college experience. I could talk for an hour just on how well he did it alone. He went to a Division III school in Ohio with a really proud athletic history, Wittenberg. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, before COVID happened, he said, "Dad, I want you to know I'm ready for this thing to be over. Like, I'm going to be sad. I'm going to miss it. But I'm just ready for the next chapter in my life." And started the season playing like it. He was just through the first 10 games, just absolutely on fire. Had a job lined up with a Fortune 100 company, Pricewaterhouse.
Oh, there you go.
Back in Tampa, back in Florida, which he was excited about. Well, then COVID happens, and obviously, an emotional time. And he calls me and says, "I'm not ready." And so for us, it was a process of piecing together, can you play another year? And for him, it was about finishing his career on his terms. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's super meaningful. Well, what I can say is the process we went through and he went through to play another year of baseball, which he just finished, I mean, was a grueling process, having to know that he had the roster spot, the NCAA giving him another year, his company saying, "We'll hold your job for a year. It's important to you. It's important to us."
Wow.
And then financially, right? This isn't something that I had budgeted for, right?
Right, of course.
And then finding a master's degree that fit his course of study, which everything fell in line for him perfectly. And, fast forward, to what he did. He also knocked out his CPA. So I have to believe he was the only certified public accountant playing college baseball this year. Like when I say he dominated his college experience, that's what he did. But the hoops that he had to jump through just to play another year were real. And so when and it also impacted his roster. This coach had brought in some really talented freshman outfielders. Well, guess what? They weren't going to beat him out, right? So it impacted those guys. But I think that the real world is going to answer a lot of these questions for us. Kids that just want to keep playing, right?
Yeah.
They have the eligibility and the right to do so, but real world things like money, degrees, jobs, these are the things that are going to thin out the overbloated rosters. And it's probably another year of this stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fine. I was, it's easy to think it could be 4 more years of this. It's optimistic to think 1 more year, but you're right. It could kind of come to equilibrium on its own. I got to tell you, I'm so proud of your boy for doing getting the Masters of Accounting while he had that opportunity. I, for one, was very vocal that a lot of kids, if you're a senior, you probably didn't need to come back. Move on with your life. Go get your job. Don't. We just talked about the student debt thing. Don't go put another $25,000, $40,000, whatever it is, on your back so that you can go play a few more games. I had some people who were, who thought that I was crazy by having those thoughts. But your kid didn't waste his time. He didn't just go and take 12 more credits each semester and pick up another minor in underwater basket weaving. He was super responsible, and ding, 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 he had that job on the back end. So that's big time. He was again, there's never black and white comments, right? Like there's always nuance, and he fell into the category where, if I were the guy in charge, I would have granted him permission. Yes, you go back because you have a plan. The kid who has no plan wanted to just delay the real world and strap on $40,000 in debt on top of what he already owed. I would have said, no, you go, buddy, go, be free, go get a job, join the rest of us out here in the real world. But man, good on your boy.
Well, I appreciate that. Look, we're doing a disservice to our high school kids if we're not getting them on that train of thought. And just a short story example for you. A couple summers ago, I'm coaching at a tournament, and the opposing coach and I pregame struck up a conversation. And this guy was clearly an impressive athlete, and he had just finished his college career and had a lot of success. He was a 6'5" right-handed pitcher, and it was right around the time of the draft. It had just happened, and he made the comment that he didn't get drafted, and that was a shock to him because he thought he was going to. And so when I asked him what's next, he said, there's some independent clubs that have reached out. He goes, I don't know, I'll just see if this coaching thing works. And I thought, good luck, dude. Like, there's no way I want that for my kids.
No.
This guy didn't have a plan. And so, look, this game comes to an end for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yep. Bingo.
Usually harsh when it happens.
We before we hit record, we were on that same topic. The game comes to an end. It's a tough thing. It's a sad thing, and we hope, as I explained to you, that my career ended before we thought it would. Just if you're new to this podcast, I went to a school that was way above me academically. I ended up playing 2 years and then stopped so I could attempt to get that degree, which I got. And then I became a whitewater kayaker, right? We talked about having outside interests beyond baseball. When you finish playing baseball, and mom and dad, if you want to pass this on to your kids or coaches who are listening, you want to pass this on to your players. Players, be prepared to fill that void that baseball has filled since you were 5 years old. When you stop playing, there's going to be space that you need to fill. Figure out a positive way to fill it. For me, it was kayaking. For some people, it's business. For some people, it's golf. For some people, it's slow pitch softball. Find a way to fill that space. And it sounds like that pitcher, and that in your story, wasn't prepared to figure out how to do it. He was going to flounder around making a couple $100 a month playing independent baseball, and delaying what eventually should be getting to the real world. We sound like a bunch of baseball haters, don't we? The gurus, the Twitter gurus are going to really the thumbs down on this podcast. That's okay.
Yeah, the get off my lawn crowd. I don't know. I just look. It's. I think it's the greatest game ever, and it's great for a variety of reasons. And I'm blessed that my boys gravitated to it. For me, it was like this. I grew up in the 70s in Ohio, and the Big Red Machine was, as you know, a real big deal.
Yeah.
And so the game has a way of bringing you in. And even when you're done playing, which for me became way earlier, I said this to my son who just finished up. I said, the game's going to find you again,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how,
no
when,
doubt.
or what, but it will. And I'm blessed that my boys gravitated to it. And now I'm blessed to be able to, kind of counsel other parents and families as they go through it.
And the best thing about gravitating to baseball instead of swimming is practice is at 3:30 in the afternoon instead of 4:30 in the morning.
Okay. I mean, the only athletes that I had more respect for were the wrestlers. This is a true story. It's like January, whatever, and it's cold as hell, and I'm in my parka, and I'm shuffling from the freshman dorm to the pool in Columbus, Ohio. And my dorm, if you ever watch Ohio State football games, they have those two really ugly towers right by the south end zone. I was right there, and so I'm walking at like 5:20, to the pool, and I hear this noise coming from the stadium of something going on. And I kind of peer through the gates of the stadium to see the wrestlers running stadiums at 5:20 in the morning on a January day. And those dudes dudes got it worse than I did.
Yeah, they're tough. Don't tangle with a wrestler. Well, Mike, I've really appreciated your time. You and I are going to talk some more. And when I come out to Colorado, we're going to visit with each other. I'm going to take you up to the River Center, so you can see where I got to hang out in your great state. Do you have any parting words for parents, coaches, players, anything?
You know what? Look, first of all, awesome to be on with you. I appreciate you. Not sure how you found us, but I appreciate you reaching out. No, look, somebody asked me one time, like going back to the youth days, if there's anything I could change about myself or do differently. There is one thing, which is I would care a lot less about, wins and losses.
Yeah.
My kids have all had success, and we've been around teams that have had success. So I'm not saying winning's not important, but if your child is new to this game, it's like golf, right? It's a really intimidating game, and it's hard. It's hard, and so like there's nothing more important than just loving the game. And if you love it hard enough, you can play a long time.
Yeah, very good, very good. Thank you for that. Colorado Yard Dawgs over on Twitter. CO Yard Dawgs. That's AWGS. It's the hip fancy way of spelling dogs. Mike Kenny, great job. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.